Welcome back to In the Beginning, an exploration comparing current scientific theories on the beginnings of the universe with a literal reading of the Genesis creation account in the Bible. In the first three videos, we've seen how God created the universe from nothing, as described in the Big Bang Theory, how he formed the earth and sparked the first plant life in the oceans by the power of his Holy Spirit, which in turn helped form the atmosphere and the protective layer above it, known as the firmament in the Bible. And we've seen dry land appear in one place at first, and then God spread out the earth, and how God brought forth plants from the seas to dry land, neither creating nor making the vegetation. In this video, we'll look at sea animals, land animals, and birds. And God said, "Let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky." And so God began to create the great creatures of the sea and every living thing with which the water teems, and that moves above it according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number, and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. In the last video, I mentioned the three verbs used in Genesis to describe how God did it: create, make, and bring forth. I like to think of the difference between create and make in terms of food. If I tell you we're going to a fancy restaurant and the chef is going to create a dish for you, you might expect something magnificent, perhaps something that has never been made quite that way before. But if I say I'm going to make you dinner, that could mean following a recipe, using existing materials, even taking something that is already prepared and just warming it up. Bring forth is not utilized in day 5. The sea creatures are being created from material that exists where they are in the seas. And indeed, according to Strong's Bible Dictionary in the Logos Bible software, the word create here is similar to the one in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, but with a small but important difference, where in the beginning, God began to create means to make something completely new out of nothing. Here, create means to make something completely new out of existing material. And indeed, an animal is an entirely different kingdom from plants. I'm amazed at the precisely perfect word choice here. You may not be yet, but I believe when day 6 is done, you will agree that the word choice in this throughout this chapter is not accidental. I believe it is fair to say that God has a different view of these divisions of life than we do. As we already see, the Bible skips over the creation of sea plants entirely, with an allusion to them. Fungi, bacteria, and protists are neither mentioned nor alluded to. The Bible describes living creatures, specifically in Genesis 1:30, everything that has the breath of life in it, which suggests complex organisms that are very different from these others. The second aspect of this day 5 creation story is the appearance of what is commonly translated as birds. According to Cal Berkeley's websites, birds first appeared about 65 million years ago. Other sites have different answers. The Australian Museum website has 150 years. But in any case, by the fossil records, birds first appear after land animals. The first land animals emerged about 400 million years ago, according to ScienceNewsToday.com. Dinosaurs, 260 million. Mammals, about 60 to 70 million years ago. If these figures are accurate, at least in order of appearance, if not in actual numbers, then the Bible is wrong that birds appear before land animals. However, Logos software suggests that birds is not quite accurate. The Christian Standard Bible Translation, among others, suggests winged creature. That includes insects. The first insects appeared about 480 million years ago and began to fly about 400 million years ago. Given that A, carbon dating is an inaccurate science, B, the Bible's definition of land animal is likely different than a scientist's, there seems to be enough leeway here to suggest that the first winged creatures appeared before land animals. And on to day 6. Let the land bring forth living creatures. God made wild animals, livestock, and all creatures according to their kinds. Land animals are brought forth and made. Again, the language here is precise and accurate. The implication is unmistakable. Land animals are brought forth from the seas, just as land plants were. But while the change from oceanic plant to land plant is relatively small, a land animal is distinctly different from a sea animal, even looking at mammals or amphibians. So while land plants are simply brought forth, not made, land animals are both. What about dinosaurs? Obviously, the closest the Bible gets to mentioning dinosaurs is in chapter 121. God began to create giant creatures of the sea. It is possible that Leviathan could refer to dinosaurs. Well, Job 41 describes a giant animal with armor-like skin and sword-like teeth. It also seems to imply that Leviathan lived at the same time as humans. Even so, if the timeline in the Bible is vague, an indeterminate period of time rather than 1 week, there is room for even for hundreds of millions of years, and as such, dinosaurs could have come and gone in their day. In summary, then, the 5th day describes the creation of fish and sea creatures, with creation meaning to make something completely new out of existing material, a slight but distinctly different word than is used in Genesis 1:1. If the fossil record is correct, birds do seem to come after land animals, not here on day 5. However, winged creatures come about the same time as land animals. Given the inexact nature of carbon dating, the possibility of a different definition of winged creatures and land animals, as well as the imperfect verb tense and the ongoing nature of creating that making that implies, it seems that this could be acceptable. Flying insects at about 400 million years and land animals at about 400 million years. Is that enough to satisfy my hypothesis that the Bible is God's perfect word? And in the first part of day 6, we have land animals that are both brought forth and made, which is exactly what I would want to see. Land animals brought from the seas to the land, but changed and made into something distinctly different than existed before, but not entirely new. I hope you will come back again for part 5, when we will look at humankind, Adam and Eve, and being made in the image of God.